Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janvalabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. So today we're reading from chapter 2, text 63. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So chapter 2 is called Contents of the Gita Summarized. So it begins with Arjuna surrendering to Krishna, and then Krishna begins to give instructions to Arjuna. First of all, he tells Arjuna about his identity, that we're the soul, and then what our duties are in this world. And then finally Arjuna, he asks Krishna, what is the symptom of a person who is in transcendence? What is the symptom of a devotee? And so now Krishna is describing different symptoms of a devotee. But then after that, Krishna describes how one can also fall down from the position of transcendence by the senses. And so Krishna's in this verse, and the previous verse, Krishna is explaining how it all starts. So we have verse 63 on the board. I'll read the Sanskrit, and by line you can repeat after me. Krodad bhavati sammohaha. Sammoha smriti vibhramaha. Smriti bhrangshad buddhi nasho. Buddhi nashat pranashyati. Krodhat bhavati sammoha. Sammoha smriti vibhramaha. Smriti bhramshat buddhi nasho. Buddhi nashat pranashyati. Krodhat bhavati sammoha. Sammoha smriti vibhramaha. Smriti bhramshat buddhi nasho. Buddhi nashat pranashyati. Please recite. Krodhat bhavati sammoha. Sammoha smriti vibhrama. Smriti bhramshat buddhi nasho. Buddhi nashat pranashyati. Okay, we'll do it word for word. Krodhat, from anger. Bhavati, takes place. Sammoha, perfect illusion. Sammohat, from illusion. Smriti, of memory. Vibhramaha, bewilderment. Smriti bhramshat, after bewilderment of memory. Buddhi nashaha, loss of intelligence. Buddhi nashat, and from loss of intelligence. Pranashyati, one falls down. Translation and purport by Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki. From anger, complete delusion arises, and from delusion, bewilderment of memory. When memory is bewildered, intelligence is lost, and when intelligence is lost, one falls down again into the material pool. Purport. Srila Rupa Goswami has given us this direction. Prapanchikataya buddhya harisambandhi vastunaha mumukshubhihi parityago vairagyam phalgukatyate. This is from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1.2.258. By development of Krishna consciousness, one can know that everything has its use in the service of the Lord. Those who are without knowledge of Krishna consciousness artificially try to avoid material objects, and as a result, although they desire liberation from material bondage, they do not attain to the perfect stage of renunciation. Their so-called renunciation is called phalgu, or less important. On the other hand, a person in Krishna consciousness knows how to use everything in the service of the Lord. Therefore, he does not become a victim of material consciousness. For example, for an impersonalist, the Lord or the Absolute, being impersonal, cannot eat. Whereas an impersonalist tries to avoid good eatables, a devotee knows that Krishna is the supreme enjoyer, and that he eats all that is offered to him in devotion. So after offering good eatables to the Lord, the devotee takes the remnants, called prasadam. Thus everything becomes spiritualized, and there is no danger of a downfall. The devotee takes prasadam in Krishna consciousness, whereas the non-devotee rejects it as material. The impersonalist, therefore, cannot enjoy life due to his artificial renunciation, and for this reason a slight agitation of the mind pulls him down again into the pool of material existence. It is said that such a soul, even though rising up to the point of liberation, falls down again due to his not having support in devotional service. So before I begin to speak, I'd like to offer the prayers to our spiritual teachers from whom we have received this knowledge. Om Jnana Timirantasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurumilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swaram Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Pada Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Saptakanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Vansha Kalpatrubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. And before we begin to speak, also I'd like to request the blessings of all the assembled devotees. Please bless me so that I can say something that will be pleasing to the Lordships and for my own purification and beneficial for all of you. Hare Krishna. So I'll read the verse once again. From anger, complete delusion arises, and from delusion, bewilderment of memory. When memory is bewildered, intelligence is lost, and when intelligence is lost, one falls down again into the material pool. So yeah, this is describing a sequence of events that happens. It's related to the previous verse, which says that while contemplating the objects of the senses, a person develops attachment for them, and from such attachment lust develops, and from lust anger arises. And then when from anger complete delusion arises. From delusion bewilderment of memory. When memory is bewildered, intelligence is lost, and when intelligence is lost, one falls down again into the material pool. So I was listening to Srila Prabhupada giving a lecture on this verse, and he was saying that how anger is so dangerous that he knew one case of two brothers. They became very angry with each other, and one brother killed the other brother. And then the brother who survived, he got taken to court, and they were gonna kill him because he murdered, a person. But then the father, he appealed to the court saying that I already lost one son, now don't kill the other son. So then they agreed and they said, okay, we're not going to kill him, we're just going to put him in prison. So we can see that anger is so dangerous. When we become angry, then we become bewildered. Complete delusion arises, and then bewilderment of memory, and then our intelligence is lost. And then we can't think properly, and then we do things that ordinarily we wouldn't do if we were thinking straight. We wouldn't kill, our own family members. Same with the battlefield of Kurukshetra. It was a fight between the brothers because they became blinded by, first of all, it was lust and greed to enjoy the kingdom, and then because they couldn't get the kingdom, then they became angry, and then they were fighting each other, even though they were their own family members. So we can see how anger is very dangerous. In the Bhagavad Gita, it says, I think it's chapter, I forget what chapter. It says, Trividam narkasedam dwaram nashanam atmanaha kama lobas tata krodas tasmad etat trayam tyajet. That lust, anger, and greed are the three gates to hell, because they cause the degradation of the soul. Therefore, every sane man should strive to give them up. And here we see how it happens. So, sober person should inquire about the problems of life. We should open our eyes and see, the miserable nature of this material world, how people are acting on the basis of lust and greed, and then they become influenced by anger, and then they become enemies. So this process is always going on in the material world, and apart from that, we have the miseries of material existence, which is birth, death, old age, and disease. And so a sober person should, understand the difficulties of material life and try to find out a solution. In chapter 13, Krishna gives different qualities of knowledge, and one is that Janma Mrityu Jaravadi Dukkha Doshana Darshanam, to see the faults of birth, death, old age, and disease. So this is the beginning of human life, actually. In the Vedanta Sutra, it says, Atato Brahma Jigyasa. The first duty of the human being is to inquire about the absolute truth, about who I am, why do I have to suffer these miseries, why do I have to die? Nobody wants to die because we're all eternal, and nobody wants to suffer because we're by nature happy. So why are we forced to die? Why are we forced to suffer? So an intelligent person will ask these questions. And nowadays hardly anybody knows the answer to these questions. There are so many big universities and colleges, but there is no university that discusses the knowledge of the soul and how to establish our relationship with Krishna. So many people, they're just frustrated because they think there is no answers to these questions. But actually there are, and those who are sincere, then Krishna guides them to meet a devotee to get the Bhagavad Gita, so they can actually find the answers to these questions, and then they can attain the fulfillment of the human form of life. So when one understands that I'm the soul, I'm eternal, and that I'm part and parcel of Krishna, and my duty is to render service to Krishna, and that's the only way where I can attain happiness, then he begins his devotional service to the Lord. So here Krishna is warning the devotee that the process of falling down. So he's warning him, like from the beginning, how it starts by contemplating the objects of the senses. So that's why it's very important to engage all of our mind and senses in the service of the Lord. And specifically, Srila Prabhupada stresses the importance about hearing about Krishna, because when we hear about Krishna, then we become attracted to Krishna, we become attached to Krishna, and then we're no longer interested in sense enjoyment, because we have the higher taste of the bliss derived from serving Krishna and by hearing about Krishna. So I wanted to read part of the purport from chapter 7, text 1. In that verse, Krishna says, Maya Sakta Manaparta, Yogam Yunjam Adashraya, Asangshayam Samagram Mam, Yatha Gyasasi Tadshurnu. Tadshurnu means just hear. So in that verse, Krishna is telling Arjuna, just hear about me. And in the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains the benefit of hearing about Krishna. It says, one should therefore begin yoga practice as described in the last verse of the 6th chapter. The last verse of the 6th chapter is, and of all yogis, the one with great faith, who always worships me and renders service unto me, he is the most intimately united with me in yoga, and he is highest of all. So one should therefore begin yoga practice as directed in this verse. Concentration of the mind upon Krishna, the Supreme, is made possible by prescribed devotional service in 9 different forms, of which Shravanam is the first and most important. The Lord therefore says to Arjuna, Tat Churnu, or hear from me. No one can be a greater authority than Krishna, and therefore by hearing from him, one receives the greatest opportunity to become a perfectly Krishna-conscious person. One has therefore to learn from Krishna directly or from a pure devotee of Krishna, and not from a non-devotee upstart, puffed up with academic education. Yeah, so here Srila Prabhupada is explaining the importance of who to hear from. You should hear from a devotee of the Lord, somebody who doesn't only have the knowledge about Krishna, but he applies it in his life. He's also practicing devotional service to Krishna. He has some love for Krishna, so then he will present it in the right way. And he has also heard from the disciplic succession, because the true knowledge from Krishna is spoken by Krishna himself, and it comes down in the disciplic succession. So then one who has heard about this knowledge in disciplic succession, then he has understood the knowledge as it is, and he can also explain it properly. So continuing here, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, this process of understanding Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Absolute Truth, is described in the 2nd chapter of the 1st canto as follows. Shrunvatam Sukatha Krishna Punyasho Nakirtana Vidyantos Dohi Bhadrani Vidhunoti Suhritsatam Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhavati Sevaya Bhavajutamashloke Bhaktir Bhavatir Naishtaki Tadarajastamo Bhava Kamalobha Dayashtraye Ete Chetar Anavedam Stitang Sattve Prasidati Evam Prasanna Manaso Bhagavad Bhakti Yogata Bhagavad Tattva Vijnanam Mukta Sangha Sajayate Vidyate Hridaya Granthesh Chadyante Sarva Sangshaya Kshiyante Chasya Karmani Drishta Eva Manishware. So this is a series of verses from the 1st canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 2nd chapter, verses 17 to 21. So here Shukadeva Goswami is explaining the effects of hearing about Lord Krishna, the potency of hearing from Krishna. So the translation is, to hear about Krishna from Vedic literatures, or to hear from him directly through the Bhagavad Gita, is itself righteous activity. And for one who hears about Krishna Lord Krishna, who is dwelling in everyone's heart, acts as a best-wishing friend and purifies the devotee who constantly engages in hearing of him. In this way, a devotee naturally develops his dormant transcendental knowledge. As he hears more about Krishna from the Bhagavatam and from the devotees, he becomes fixed in the devotional service of the Lord. By development of devotional service, one becomes freed from the modes of passion and ignorance, and thus material lusts and avarice are diminished. So this is explaining how the hearing cleanses our heart, because Krishna himself, he purifies the heart of the devotee who is attached to hearing his messages. So Krishna is the supreme pure, and when he cleanses our heart of all our material desires, then we're no longer attracted to sense enjoyment. So even though Jai Shri Radha Gokulananda ki Jai, Sita Ram Lakshman Hanuman Gaur Nitai ki Jai. So even though the objects are all around us, we will never be tempted to enjoy them. It's just like a child in his childhood, he may be attracted to so many different toys, but when we grow up, we're no longer attracted to a teddy bear or a toy train. These things don't interest us anymore. Similarly, a devotee, when he becomes mature in his devotional service, then he's no longer attracted to sense enjoyment because it's no longer interesting for him. So, this is the way to become free from attachment to sense enjoyment and to save ourselves from the subsequent difficulties that result from being attached to sense enjoyment, is to focus our mind on Krishna, because the mind is the master of the senses. So whatever the mind is attracted to, whatever the mind focuses on, then the senses will naturally follow. So if by hearing about Krishna, then our mind is attracted to Krishna, then naturally our senses, they will also be engaged in the service of Krishna, and there will be no chance of them being attracted to inferior engagements. Because the devotee, he understands that Krishna is Hrishikesh, he's the master of the senses. And so all the senses, they actually belong to Krishna. And so they ought to be used for Krishna's service. It's like if we get a vehicle to use for our business, that means the vehicle is not for us to use however we like, to just go drive and see a friend. We have to use that car only for the business purpose. So similarly, this body is given to us by Krishna for the purpose of serving him. And if we instead use it for fulfilling our own purposes, then we get in trouble. But instead, if we use it for Krishna service, then we get the greatest satisfaction, because Krishna is not just an ordinary boss or master, but he's actually our best friend. And when we engage in his loving service, then we get full reciprocation from Lord Krishna, and we feel the greatest happiness. And this is the fulfillment, the highest success of human life. So in these verses from Srimad Bhagavatam, it's explaining how this is attained by hearing about Krishna. So as he hears more about Krishna from the Bhagavatam and from the devotees, he becomes fixed in the devotional service of the Lord. By development of devotional service, one becomes freed from the modes of passion and ignorance. So in this verse that we're discussing today, it's described how one becomes subject to illusion, anger, and then delusion. So this is, anger means the mode of passion and ignorance, and delusion is obviously ignorance. So by devotional service, then we become free from the effects of the modes of passion and ignorance. So that means we also become free from illusion and anger. And thus material lust and avarice are diminished. So lust also, material desires, they go away from our heart. When these impurities are wiped away, the candidate remains steady in his position of pure goodness, and he becomes enlivened by devotional service and understands the science of God perfectly. Thus Bhakti Yoga severs the hard knot of material affection and enables one to come at once to the stage of Asamshaya Samagram, understanding of the Supreme Absolute Truth, personality of Godhead. And what is the benefit of understanding the personality of Godhead? That's also explained in the Bhagavad Gita. Janma karma cha me divyam, evam yoveti tattva, tatva deham punarjanma, naiti mamiti sorjuna. But one who understands the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities, he does not, upon leaving this body, take his birth again in this material world, but he attains my transcendental abode, or Arjuna. So that's why every day we try to hear about Krishna. Srila Prabhupada has so nicely arranged the program, daily program of Srimad Bhagavatam class in the morning, Bhagavad Gita class in the evening, and also he wanted each of us to read his book, spend some time every day, ideally like an hour, reading his books and absorbing ourselves in Krishna, because all of these activities, they help us remember Krishna. So the goal of all the regulative principles that we follow is to remember Krishna, always remember Krishna, and never forget him. So actually all of these activities, they're meant to engage our mind in remembering Krishna. So when we do these activities, we shouldn't do them mechanically, like our chanting in the morning, our singing of the various prayers. We should meditate, we should try to engage our mind in hearing the holy name of Krishna, in remembering the meaning of the songs. When we take darshan of the deities, we should think that this is Krishna himself here, and Krishna is a person. So we should try to engage with Krishna as a person. When we come before the Lord, just like seeing a dear friend, and we smile, we greet them. It's Krishna himself there, it's not just a statue. And so we should try to be personal, be attentive in our spiritual practices, and pray to the Lord to help us become attached to him, so that we'll no longer be attached to material life. And so, because the only thing that's keeping us in this material world is our attachment to sense gratification. That's why sense gratification is, or lust, the desire to enjoy, is compared to our enemy. Because actually there's very little happiness derived from sense gratification. But because of attachment for that tiny bit of happiness, then we continue our material existence in this world, birth after birth, and we continue to suffer so many miseries. So we should be intelligent and realize that it's not worth it to remain in this world and struggle and suffer so much just for such a little happiness. Rather, we should utilize our time and energy to prepare ourselves to go back to Godhead. There we can actually enjoy eternal happiness, unlimited happiness, and there's no side effects of birth, death, old age, and disease, and so many different other miseries. So this is the aim of the devotees. I thought it was nice here also how Srila Prabhupada talked about prasadam, because he's saying how the impersonalists, they think that the Lord is impersonal and he can't eat. So then the impersonalists, they practice giving up everything, all objects of sense enjoyment, but they don't have any positive engagement for the senses. So that's why they're not very happy in their position, and with any little agitation, then they fall down. Often, Srila Prabhupada says that often they again come back to the material world, engage in different materialistic activities like opening hospitals and things like that. But the devotees, they have engagement in Krishna consciousness, because Krishna is a person. So then they offer everything to Krishna. They engage everything for Krishna. Like for food example, they prepare the best kind of food for Krishna's pleasure, and they offer it to Krishna with love. And then Krishna, he accepts that food, and then the devotee also enjoys that food. So the devotee is happy in Krishna consciousness, and so he's satisfied, and he's not looking to he doesn't need to enjoy other things. In chapter 3, text 13. Text 13, Krishna describes the process of how the devotees, they're released from all kinds of sin because they eat food which is offered first for sacrifice, for the pleasure of Krishna. Others who prepare food for personal sense enjoyment, they eat only sin. And then in the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains the potency of prasadam. Sometimes we don't take it very seriously. We just, mechanically we're just eating to maintain ourselves, but we should remind ourselves of the power of prasadam. Prasadam is special. It's not like ordinary food. Once we offer it to Krishna, it becomes spiritual, and then actually it cleanses us. And in this purport, Srila Prabhupada explains that it also protects us from the material influence. Here, let me just read it to you. It says that, therefore such devotees always perform yagyas in different modes of devotional service, and these performances of yagyas keep them always aloof from all kinds of contamination of sinful association in the material world. Others who prepare food for self or sense gratification are not only thieves, but also the eaters of all kinds of sins. So it says here, further down, that the prasadam is actually like a vaccine, that it protects us from getting contaminated from the material influences. So, this is the power of eating prasadam, and it's actually honoring. It's a part of a service to Krishna. Also, I thought it was interesting here how in the last sentence of this purport, from text 63, Srila Prabhupada says, it is said that such a soul, even though rising up to the point of liberation, falls down again due to his not having support in devotional service. So, we should, in our devotional service, we should always have support, because at any moment, otherwise we can get distracted from Maya, because in this material world there are so many different distractions, because it's a place of Maya. And the devotees, they have to protect their devotional service. So devotional service is often compared to the Bhakti Lata creeper, a little creeper plant. And to protect it, then we should keep a fence around it. And what is the fence that we keep around it? Association of devotees. So this is the way we can keep our devotional service protected, by staying always in the association of devotees. But we should also be careful that to associate in the right way with devotees, because if we commit offenses to the devotees, then that is described as the mad elephant which tramples our creeper. So devotional devotee association is very important, but it can also be be destructive if it's not done in the proper way. That's why Lord Chaitanya, he has spoken this verse, Trinadapi Sunichena Tarorapi Seshnuna Amanina Manadena Kirtaniya Sadhari, that we recite every morning, and we shouldn't just forget it as soon as we finish reciting it in the morning, but Lord Chaitanya said we should string this verse around our neck. That means we should remember always that we should always remain in a humble state of mind. We should always think ourselves lower than the straw in the street, devoid of all sense of false prestige, always ready to offer all respects to others without expecting respect in return. And then in such a state of mind, we can chant the holy names of the Lord constantly. So, to attain perfection in devotional service, we need to be sincere, and we need to be thoughtful and consider our position, that we need the help of the devotees. So we should always be respectful towards them and try to attain their mercy, try to please them, because when the devotees are pleased, then they can help us attain to Krishna. Bhakti-Vinod Thakur, he sings a nice bhajan. It's called O Hey Vaishnava Thakur. And in the last verse, he says, Krishna se tomar, Krishna dite paro, dai tava pachi pachi. That, O Vaishnava Thakur, you have Krishna, and I'm just running after you, crying, Krishna, Krishna. So this is the mood of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, that he sees that the devotees are the people who can give him Krishna, are the people who can give him, who can help him attain his highest goal of life. So in this way, keeping this thought in his mind, then this will naturally help him, be respectful to the devotees and try to serve them. Because by their mercy only can we attain the mercy of Krishna and attain the highest goal of life. There's also the story of Gajendra. Because Gajendra, it said that he was in the water. So because Gajendra was in the water, then he couldn't fight with the crocodile. So in this verse, Srila Prabhupada, he's saying, in the purport, he's saying that the impersonalists also, with a slight agitation, they can fall down because they're not in a good position. So in our devotional service also, we should try to be well situated, because we have to be strong enough to fight Maya. So we should always give ourselves enough strength by regularly chanting, staying in the association of devotees, and in this way we can overcome the allurements of Maya, and we can progress on our path in devotional service. So we have 10 minutes left. Would anybody like to ask any questions? Krishna. So we have to remember Krishna and pray to him. We have to know also that everything Krishna does for us is for our good. So sometimes Krishna arranges situations like this because he knows that we have certain desires in our heart. And so he arranges for us to fulfill those desires, but he does so in a way that we will become detached from them. Because, sometimes you have to become rich in order to understand that, to become rich is not the goal of life. Otherwise, some people, they're poor and they spend their whole life trying to become rich. But those who are rich, they already know that, wealth doesn't really bring you happiness. So sometimes Krishna, he arranges for his devotees to become very wealthy, or to fulfill their desires in different ways. So then they become free from those desires. So the devotee, he always remains surrendered to Krishna in all circumstances, and always prays to Krishna to bring him closer to him in all circumstances. And in this way, the devotee makes progress towards Krishna. Anybody wants to add anything? Let's see. Any question? Yeah, thank you. Thank you for adding. That's a very nice point. That we should do our best to follow the principles and to control our senses. But if accidentally something happens, then we take that as Krishna's arrangement. I think that was what you were saying, that the situation you described was accidental, no? Yeah. Yeah. So Lord Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, he says, Apichet suduracharo bhajate mam ananyabhak sadureva samantavya samyak bhavesito isa. That even if one performs the most abominable action, if he's fixed in his determination in devotional service, then he's to be considered saintly, because he's rightly situated in his determination. So Srila Prabhupada in this purport, he explains that there are accidental fall downs and there are, premeditated sinful activities that we do. So Krishna, he forgives us if we do something accidental, if the devotee accidentally falls down. Like, he wasn't planning to commit any sinful activity, but because of the circumstances, then somehow he was moved to do it. But then he repents, he regrets his sinful action, and then he prays to Krishna and he engages himself again in devotional service. So then Krishna, he forgives him and he purifies him. But we should be careful not to intentionally commit sinful activities, because then Krishna won't so easily forgive us. Yeah. And in the introduction to the Nectar of Instruction, Srila Prabhupada writes that the advancement of the follower of the advancement of the devotee depends on the attitude of the practitioner. So our attitude is most important in our devotional service. If we're sincere, that we really want to please Krishna, we really want to dedicate all our activities to Krishna, then we advance very quickly. In the class I was listening to Srila Prabhupada that he gave on this verse, he said that we should make the motto of our life how to use everything for Krishna's pleasure. If we always see everything in that way and think of how to use this for Krishna's pleasure, then that's the right use of our intelligence, and that will enable us to attain perfection. Yeah. Sincere means that we want to please Krishna. Sincere means that we're honest, right? So I guess this would mean that we would approach the devotees and we would reveal our heart. I guess this is the process of accepting a bona fide spiritual master, that we take shelter from him, and then we reveal our mind to him, and explain that I really want to advance in devotional service. I want to attain Krishna, but at the same time I have these desires, I have these problems, I have these difficulties in my life. So please help me. How can I best practice devotional service so that I can actually attain Krishna? So not trying to show off that I'm an advanced devotee, but being humble and being honest and open. This is one of the ways Srila Rupa Goswami recommends to how to associate with devotees in the Nectar of Instruction. Text 4, he says that we should reveal our mind in confidence and inquire confidentially. Okay, so now it's 7 o'clock and the altar is about to open. Thank you for listening patiently. Hare Krishna.